And welcome.
Yeah.
I am Brandy,
And I am Richard.
and we are Emerge by Design. And we have come today to offer you a look at the first quarter moon that is coming up here on the 13th.
Yeah, we've been taking a close look at each lunar transit each month and pulling the themes and the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do that today with this first quarter moon. The first quarter moon is a week after the new moon. We're
Right.
going to take a look at that new moon just to refresh where we started a week ago. But this is when the moon forms a square with the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very dynamic. All square aspects in astrology are dynamic energy that promote growth and development.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this real opportunity at every first quarter moon to move something forward.
Right.
Of course, following personal authority from your human design body graph.
Right.
But there is a frequency that really is conducive to moving something forward as we approach the full moon a week from now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so these quarters, they look as if the new moon is the programming.
Mm-hmm.
The first quarter moon is the steps toward that fruition of whatever that new moon programming was.
Yeah.
And then the full moon is the culmination of that. And then the third quarter moon is the sustainability of that.
That's right. Third
Right?
quarter moon also is when the moon is square the sun, but
Mhm.
she's in her waning phase.
Right.
So she's heading back for another reprogramming message on the new moon.
Right.
So it carries with it the frequency of a moon square sun, but it's really to bring something to culmination.
Right.
So the third quarter moon often means letting things go that we
Right.
don't
Okay.
need anymore. Where here in the first quarter moon, we're still building up to
Mhm.
the summit of the full moon, and the third quarter moon, we're coming back down the mountain.
Right. Right.
So third quarter moon tends to be more associated with tending our garden,
Mhm.
reestablishing boundaries,
Yeah.
letting
Seeing how we
things
can
go.
sustain.
Yes, but we're in the first quarter moon now,
Yeah.
so we're adding some new things to the garden.
Yeah, and what those new things are
Mhm.
a result of what the programming of the new moon was.
Yes.
So you'll tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
let's
the
take
new
a
moon.
look at the new moon where we started a week
Mhm.
ago. New moon in Cancer on July 5th. And the things we would pull through from the astrological chart first, we can see the moon conjunct the sun, as we were saying. It's like she's getting her new programming.
Yeah.
She goes completely dark in the night sky to us, but on the other side of the moon, she's fully illuminated.
Having a
with
private conversation.
private conversation,
with
right?
the sun.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really is the chapter to the next lunar emotional cycle of development. And so this was our sixth lunar cycle of this rave year in Cancer. And what we can notice in the astrological chart is that Venus was pretty close to this new moon. So we would say she was conjunct to it. The moon, of course, is in her home sign.
Right.
So in that sense, was one of the most powerful new moons because she is in her castle, her kingdom in that
She
sense.
is.
And Cancer as a sign, as we know, is very sensitive. This is the sign of the crab with a hard shell and a claw, but also very tender. The crabs live in the tidal zone of the ocean.
Right.
We watch them scurry with each wave they move. And so they can feel so much. Hard exterior, but inside very soft.
And they are liquid inside, quite literally liquid inside. So it's that dichotomy of the, I can do this, but the inside saying, I don't know, how do you want me to do this?
For sure. And so in having Venus so near the new moon at this time, she was bringing her qualities of love, harmony, beauty, tranquility. I always think of Venus as what we really want from our deep inside.
Yeah.
So beautiful alignment to have Venus so close to this precious Cancerian new moon.
It really feels like it lets us into the tender parts of our heart. And allows us to see maybe what it is that we can be passionate about. What is it that can make us feel more like home and comfortable in our emotional self on the inside?
Yes. Now, the chart even lends some information about it being even more sensitive because that Venus we're talking about, she was square to Chiron in Aries. Chiron is in gate 42, doesn't get an activation in the body graph, so we don't see Chiron in the body graph, but currently at the new moon was in gate 42. But this Venus square Chiron being the wounded healer, things from the past that we still need to heal from, areas in our life where we still feel fear doubt, and deep insecurity.
Hmm.
Having Venus, our love, beauty, and harmony, square the wounded healer, it just brings such an extra sensitivity to an
Right.
already sensitive
Cancer new
lunar
moon.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So in this first week already, if you've had moments where you've either seen out in public with other people or even for ourselves, where someone said something and immediately there was like just this poking
Yeah.
at a tender part
Tender
of
spot.
ourselves, you've seen this already.
Yeah.
It's like little things were very stimulating in this sense.
And I love that it's in Chiron is in gate 42. Again, no activation in the body graph, but you can see in the astrological wheel, if you look at that, the Chiron placement. And being in gate 42, it's the invitation for that tender poke that we've received to be matured, to find its maturation of expression. Where's the energy still alive in that hurt that we can move into a space that can find its truth?
Yeah. For sure. And along with that story is that, again, and this has been, if you've been following along with us, every lunar cycle has been overwhelmingly individual circuitry oriented, just one after the other. And here again, on this Cancer new moon, the moon was in gate 39 in the channel of emoting, a design of sensitivity, a design of moodiness. Okay.
I love it.
But I do want to bring up that individual repetition we've been having.
Right.
And it's been in different individual gates. There's been different individual channels, but the overall theme every single month has been that we're working on the deepest, most recessed core of who we are as a person. So we are using words like personal inspiration, your purpose in life, your personal emotional spirit, just very personal. Yeah, it's been really deep. And so there's really been this offering to mutate and transform, to heal and alchemize pain and suffering into gifts and sharing.
Right.
And so we really are seeing this in this chart again with what we've covered so far.
So last week we were invited, pressured, poked into some of the recesses, like you say, that maybe we keep some of those desires and passions and behaviors that feel like love and home, where we haven't let them come to the surface yet because we're afraid or conditioning, or there's just something in the way of us believing that what we desire and want in the soft, tender parts of our heart can be achieved.
Yes.
And so last week we were asked to get into those spots, into those crevices. And this week in the first quarter moon, we're being invited to now express them.
Yeah, express them. We'll keep working with them too. Keep bringing it to our awareness, bringing it into our focus of attention. Because where we put attention, where intention goes, energy flows. And so, we're being asked to review what's going on here. How are we moving along in our new story? We talked about that the last lunar cycle. With this internal healing, it's also important that we change our outer expression. And this will be brought in as well. I'm saying this because the full moon we're heading towards in a week is in Capricorn. It's actually our second full moon in Capricorn, associated with the 10th house, how we shine out into the world, out into public. So I see this lunar cycle being a transition point of how this healing process has been going on the inside and what can be brought out into the integration with others. And if I could share one more thing about that while we're on the new moon still, we'll go to the first quarter moon chart in just a second. But that Venus was square Chiron. But that Venus was also beginning to form, it's in the middle of, we would say it's sextile to the midpoint of the Mars-Uranus growing conjunction.
Oh, yes.
A little bit technical jargon there, but on Monday morning, the 2 days after the first quarter moon we're talking about, we're going to have the exact Mars-Uranus conjunction. This is a huge transit for the whole year. This only happens every couple of years. We have the fiery god of war planet Mars, how we go get what we want, that the zeal and the passion, enthusiasm of Mars lining up with Uranus, the planet of unusualness, revolution, change, innovation. It's electric. It's sudden. I always call Uranus the wild card in the planets, right? It's like it changes the game.
Yeah.
So this is a really powerful conjunction coming right on the heels of the first quarter moon. But even at the new moon, that was already tied into not only Venus, But that Mars at the new moon was exactly sextile Saturn in gate 22.
Gate 22.
So again, we're talking about this Saturn retrograde in gate 22 right now. Gate 22 is the gate of grace. It's part of the channel of openness. It represents our emotional energy to express and interact with others. And so we are, again, with this healing process, being guided through the thematics into how is our emotional interaction and exchange evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an ongoing lesson as Saturn offers its restructuring capabilities to bring greater stability to the process.
What I just see in the story, and plain language, is that there is a greater truth of your emotional connective expression that is asking to be brought to the front. Not only asking, but almost being demanded in this restructuring of the way that you experience your passion and behavior in relationships and depth. There is a restructuring being demanded. And this Uranus-Mars conjunction feels like if we don't do it willingly, we are going to have an emergency of some sort or a crisis of some sort that is going to force us to start rotating in the opposite direction, like Uranus does.
Yeah, really well said there. And so, and to also share that Mars-Uranus conjunction is happening in individual circuitry as well. Again. It's happening in gate 8, which is the gate of contribution. It's in the channel of inspiration. This is our inner most creative quality that can be expressed in contribution to larger group goals.
And it's in line 2.
And it's in line 2.
Which is the line of service, which is the line of, if you put that into context with gate 8 and with everything that we just said, is that this, to have the faith and the knowing inside that emotional truth, that thing that we are afraid to want or afraid to ask for or afraid to move into, that greater sense of love that we feel like, okay, well, this is enough love. I do want more, but I don't want to give up what I have. That invitation into a deeper sense of love and connectivity in the world is the thing that is of service to the other. So having the faith that, we only allow ourselves to breathe to here right now, but allowing ourselves to breathe to here is scary, but going to be benefit to everybody. That our natural, authentic expression of love and passion and desires in relating and inside of ourselves is the service to the world.
Absolutely. Yes. And it has a very selfless quality to it, without expectations. Right.
Because being myself doesn't require that you be anything.
Right.
And so falling deeper into that, knowing that faith that, it is the deepest service, but it is, I call it divine selfishness, because first I have to be selfish to want and allow myself to desire what I want. And then when I do, and that becomes expression, now it's the most selfless thing that I can do. So it's that polarity of having to first be selfish in order to be of service.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate how you said that. All right, so let's take a look at the first quarter moon. And as we can see that the moon is in Libra in an exact square to the sun, as we said, every first quarter moon.
Again, relationships.
Yeah, we can see that we still have the channel of the wavelength, which we've had for quite some time because it's been the south node in gate 48. And with Jupiter in gate 16. So that's been a background frequency as well.
Which tells me it's the support. It's like that little supportive guy that's like, you can do it. You can say this. Let's get into our intuitive knowing. Let's say it. Let's say it. Let's say it.
And we can say from that channel too, because of that, part of that knowing is the south node in gate 48 is giving us this access to the past. So that's why it's also been very supportive in the healing process, because we often have to go back to that experience and alchemize
and
that.
restore it.
Yeah, and be able to share it with depth and skill to the other. So that channel is there. But we also see that we have the channel of the alpha has been brought into the body graph because Mercury is in gate 7 and Venus in gate 31. Venus just moved into Leo. And so what I want to mention there is that we would have just had the day prior Venus opposite Pluto.
Right.
Now, whenever we're thinking Venus, we're also thinking relationships,
Right.
right? And whenever we're thinking Pluto, we're thinking about hidden truths.
Right.
It's an opposition can be a difficult aspect. In other words, it's called a hard aspect because we're trying to have two opposing viewpoints meet in the middle.
Yeah.
We can often get lost in projection or dissociation, but we're
Mhm.
trying to look straight ahead and hold two counterbalances like this.
Yes.
So it's a tricky aspect. But we're so talking about relationships with Pluto in this form could be that things are being brought to the surface.
Mhm.
And that's why that sensitivity of the new moon that we started with, we're extra sensitive, but yet some of those things that may trigger us are actually offering us something we needed to look at,
Right.
something we needed to see that we didn't see before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or something that we've continually seen but not done anything
Ignored.
about.
Yeah.
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 I think that one too is a big one.
Well,
Something that we know is there.
Thank you for saying that, because what's really going to add the illumination to what you just said is the growing conjunction between that Mars
Right.
Uranus. Here at the first quarter moon, we're about a degree away, right? So we're about 48 hours away from that exact conjunction. So we're already feeling this energy. You know,
Right.
these big conjunctions, they rise in frequency and then they dissipate. So they happen over a larger period of time. But that's really adding this electricity
That's right.
to the Venus opposing Pluto. So that's why, just to be aware that little conversations can take a hard turn,
Yeah.
you know, and I think to just be aware of that is so supportive. It's kind
Yeah.
of like having your little red warning light on your car come on. It's
That's
like, oh,
right.
I need to look at something here. I
Yeah.
need to take some deep breaths. I need to regulate.
Yeah.
What am I being asked to be aware of right now
Right.
that I wasn't paying attention to before in regards to my emotional exchanges within all my relationships?
And to remember it's never about the other.
Yeah.
Even though the other has proposed, given you the opportunity on the silver platter, you know, to be angry or lash out or say, we've been here before, or I don't want to do this. It is never about the other. It is always the invitation back into yourself, back into where do I feel afraid to express my truth, this secret that's inside of me that I've always wanted or have this desire for, but I'm punishing the other because I don't get it. But because I'm not afraid to say, or I am afraid to say it, I'm not brave enough to say it. This is the time where, if you trust yourself, the universe's support is here to bring you through the threshold of that fear of the thing that you want, or that secret desire or passion or moral or value that you hold in your heart, to be able to flower right now. Yes.
Beautifully shared. Really hearing that Mars Uranus conjunction in gate 8 come through in your sharing there. Yeah.
And again, if you don't do it, there's going to be a crisis or an emergency. I mean, I'm not prophesizing anything, but it feels like, you know, we get messages, we get whispers in our ears from the universe, and then we get messages, and then we get little emergencies, and then we get a crisis. And this can be something with Mars and Uranus that we can look at it two ways. We can look at it as it brought a crisis and now shit, I have to deal with it. Or it brought this beautiful opportunity to usher me through into another more aligned way of living in relationship with our beloveds.
It really helps to allow this shift of perspective. Yeah, for sure. This is not a time to be kicking the can down the road. It's not helpful for that. That's where we may feel that extra resistance, for sure.
So remember that your authentic expression is your service to the world. There's no purpose we're looking for. There's nothing anybody can tell you. It is your authentic expression of voice is the contribution of service.
Yeah, beautiful. And let's mention the moon's position in Libra, because the moon is in gate 32. This is the gate of continuity.
Right.
This is the instinctual awareness to recognize what transformation needs to take place.
That's right.
Okay. And so that's, again, really is, you can feel this as part of this story, right?
The support that's being offered.
She's bringing her lunar energy, which she represents our inner world. We all want to feel this inner security, kind of like the Cancer theme she started with. But here in gate 32, she's bringing that emotional quality to recognize where can the transformation happen. Only
Right.
each person can know,
Yeah.
where they are in this story.
What I hear you saying is that your intuition absolutely knows what transformation needs to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And the trust and the surrender to that knowing, that emotional knowing, is the key.
And not only that knowing, but if we look at the Earth position, it's in gate 61. Inner truth.
Yeah, inner
Okay.
truth, and inner truth in a way that hasn't existed before, like
Right.
the support to bring a new, inspired self-expression into the world.
Absolutely. And we can be grounded in the trust that knowing will emerge. It will appear. And if we look at the sun position at the first quarter moon, we're in gate 62, the gate of details.
Precision of language.
Going through transformation like this, going through this mushy, cathartic, new expression of internal emotional energy within relationships, there is details required.
Yeah. Well, and there's precision of language. I can't be sloppy with the way I express my heart.
Yes.
Because I get to be precise in naming exactly what my heart desires. And this is the support for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, because it reaffirms what we often say, how fundamentally important communication is.
Oh my goodness.
How often do we share things with each other? And I think we're understanding each other, but then we ask questions back and forth and we're not.
We're on a totally different page.
And I think that sun at gate 62 is really giving that life force energy to really be precise. Make sure that what you've shared has been received the way it was intended.
That's right. And matching the frequency of our heart to the frequency of the language that we're using.
Yes.
To really fall into that intuitive, 32 and 48 and all of this support, this intuitive support that it's giving you. These words aren't going to come from your mind. They're going to come from your body and your feelings. That's how to be precise, is to allow your body and your intuitive knowing to do the talking.
Really, really helpful to listen to what we're also saying. Does it match the transformation going on inside? We are so used to sharing our old stories the same way.
Yeah.
We've gotten so attached to those stories.
Yeah.
But when Venus was exactly opposite Pluto, she was in gate 56.
Right.
This is
the storyteller.
The storyteller.
Yeah.
So our story has this transformational quality opportunity right now.
Absolutely.
And if we're sharing something that we've said it and then we listen and go, sounds like my old story.
Take this opportunity to say, wait a second, let me say that another way.
Yes.
Let me be more true to what I actually feel.
Yeah.
So taking the moment and the time to ask for the grace to be able to work through exactly what it is your heart desires. Because remember, those heart's desires that may be coming to the surface are ones that we have suppressed for a very long time because we didn't feel like we could get them, or we weren't worth, whatever the reason is, they're hidden and secret because we've put them there.
Yeah.
And so because we've put them there, and we've done that generally when we were a child, that only has child language to speak. That feeling or that desire or that emotional truth may speak like a child.
Yeah.
And that's okay to allow that expression of self, because that's where we've stopped its growth. That emotional desire is at that child stage. So allowing yourself to speak that inner child desire for love and connection and truth, not having to be perfect in the way that you say it, but it being precise and true.
Yeah, really important. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh, and then 731, the channel of the Alpha, this feels like with Mercury there and with Jupiter there, or excuse me, not Jupiter.
And the channel
Mercury and
Venus is in 31 at the time of the first quarter.
Is in 31. So I have this channel and I talk about how it feels like, I know it's leadership and it's alpha and all of that, which one may assume that is me doing it, being the alpha or being the leader. And what I know about this energy and why it's going to support us all into moving forward into this expression is that 731 takes you. It is leadership that moves you through the G center. And it's not leadership because my mind decided to do it. It is my body moved me somewhere, and that became what everyone else saw as direction.
Yeah.
And so we are all being gifted this opportunity to our natural direction of self and expression of emotions being the thing that does lead other people into our truth.
Yeah.
So we've got support instead of resistance.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we feel like our emotional truth meets resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our emotional truth is being given the oomph of leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, into the future. Yeah, for sure. Well,
that was beautiful.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
And thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching.
Have a wonderful week. Speak your heart with bravery, and see what love sees.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
25 minutes.